If any of you say something during this hour, let me know and I'll erase the recording. The reason I record it when I remember is for our group. The other thing is not everybody in our group is on Facebook. So then I have to remember who to send it to. And so people have to ask me because I don't have that good a memory. So just so you three know, if you ever don't make a mystery school and if you're not on Facebook to see it there, you have to email me to let me know that you'd like the recording. Okay.
Got it.
So yeah, I mean, what you were just saying, Jen, could you repeat that?
I think I was just talking about the idea that thoughts, I guess thoughts are not things is what he gets to. And you don't need to hold on to it and take it apart and see whose part was in each situation and make other people wronger than you were and carry it on with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah. I think sometimes when we think that thoughts are real things, that's when our mind just, in my case, it's just like nonstop. Like, what if this happens? And what if that happens? And what if someone says that or says this thing?
You know what they call that? Worry.
Yeah.
When I had a physical office, it's now down in the basement somewhere. I moved my physical office into my basement here. But when I had this physical office, right behind my chair was a framed saying of Mark Twain's. And here's the saying: I've had many problems in life. I've had many problems in life, most of which never happened.
Yeah.
Mostly in your mind.
My favorite Mark Twain saying. Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's the description of worrying about stuff. So are you guys starting to notice when your mind does that stuff? When actually it's your brain doing that stuff. It's the brain waves of worry, fearful thinking, all of that. Are you starting to notice it? And when because you're in it until you notice it. When you notice it, that's when you have the freedom to accept it or bypass it, to dwell on it. Somebody used that word a little bit ago, to dwell on it or let it go. Yeah. So what else are you noticing, or what questions do you have?
In my case, I would say I'm starting to notice how when we talked about last week about the wisdom energy compared to the ego energy, just like tiny decisions that probably like don't even matter, but I'm going to use my wisdom energy instead of using my ego energy, because if I use my ego energy, maybe that would just solve it just right in that minute. But if I use my wisdom energy, it will last a little longer, or things will make better sense in the long run.
Yeah, makes better sense. What do you mean by last a little longer?
I wouldn't say last a little longer, but I will go with like it will make sense in the long run.
Oh yeah. That in the
like
long run.
I was worrying about like not going back to work, but I'm like, no, I'd just rather spend time with my baby using that wisdom energy instead of that ego energy about me going back to work.
Oh, interesting, huh? That's interesting that you saw that was really coming from ego.
Yeah.
This need to get back to work. How did that come about? That's a pretty big insight, I would say.
I guess I was just just worried about me and, me being okay, me just complimenting myself instead of looking at the bigger picture. I have a baby, have to take care of this baby, spend time with her as much as I can, and just enjoy those little moments that not every parent gets to have.
Wow. That's really cool.
So it's definitely, that's when I realized that I said I'm using my wisdom energy instead of my ego energy.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? Nobody's ever had an anxiety attack using wisdom, going in the direction of wisdom. But people have certainly had anxiety attacks trying to fulfill their ego. Like, I got to get back to work, or, I'll lose my job, all that fear, or I'll forget what I learned, or a lot of fearful thinking. And I mean, it's one thing if you have to go back to work because you have to pay a mortgage, but if that's not your situation, that it's mandatory for you to go back to work. And you realize, my goodness, I'm a new mom.
Yeah.
What's really important here?
I had a similar situation, sort of, when I found out that my son was only allowed to go to the school for half a day. I didn't realize that. And then I went to bring him thinking he was going to be there till 3:30. And I had the day scheduled for work for many weeks ahead till 3:30. And they said, oh no, you have to pick him up at 11. But then I had to change to part-time, and it was just like the best time we had in the afternoons. It was so fun. I was so happy. At first I was like, argh! But then it was so fun. We had such fun from 11:30 to 3 every day. We really did. It was our only time together because I had an older son too, or have one still. So it was our only time together,
Aww.
with just me and him. Yeah. And that was special.
Yeah, that's when you get to that's when you actually realize these moments will never come back.
Yeah. And originally I was like, oh, how am I going to make this money up? We made it work.
Yeah.
So special.
Brett had an interesting, huge situation. I don't know if you want to share that, what you've been through, but he's come through it like a champ.
Last January of 2020, we had a house fire, and we lost everything. So the fire came, then COVID came, then homeschooling came. It was just one thing after another, but it was difficult. I'm actually in the insurance field as a large loss adjuster, so we didn't get taken advantage of, or any those horror stories you hear. But yeah, we went through that and everything, and moved back in the end of February. Yeah, end of February of this year. So March, April, May, June, July. We've been in here just about 5 months, give or take.
Yeah.
Wow. Isn't that amazing? They had to rebuild the whole house. And it was right before Christmas, right? So right after Christmas, right after. The kids lost all their brand new Christmas toys. I mean, my God.
Yeah, it was everything. It was a mess. So it was just me and I got 2 boxers for dogs. We were home. It was a wood stove, and before you know it, it was just going.
Amazing.
So I got out with a pair of jeans, a t-shirt, a baseball hat, and 2 mismatched sandals I could just snag on my feet because it was January.
What a story. What a story. I mean, look at the resiliency of humans to bounce back from that. In a completely rebuilt house now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really something. Whew. Hats off to you. Yeah.
Oh, that must have been really tough in the middle of a pandemic.
And losing your stuff.
Wow.
Yeah,
hard to imagine.
Going to like looking for stuff and saying, "Oh, I don't have that anymore," right?
It's constantly like,
yeah,
every day, like, where's this? Where's that?
this? Oh, I don't have that anymore.
Make another list. Make another list. Like, it's not the big things you think about. But yeah, got through it, and going from there.
Yeah. And then you realize too, it's just stuff.
Yeah. Just
stuff. Right?
Yeah.
At least you have your health.
Yeah, I mean, everything else could get rebought or rebuilt or replaced, whatever. But, my dogs or me, that's a different story, So, it stung for a while, obviously, because it was, Ashley, and it's the house that I grew up in too. So it's like, it's the only house that I know. So it stung for a while, but then, I think doing the job that I do, because this is what I do. I go to, huge house fires or water damage or whatever. Like, I'm kind of numb to it anyways, kind of now, because unfortunately I see it more often than we should. So I just, like, I was emotional about it, but then it was just like, all right, it's down to business. Like, what we have to do, let's get moving, get that on. So that's what we did. Whatever didn't burn up, we knocked down, they rebuilt it, and now I'm just waiting for my driveway to get paved, and then we'll be done.
Wow. And you had two young boys, not small, young. They were like high school or younger, I think.
My kids, so I have a daughter who's 9, and then my son is almost 8.
Oh, one of each. So they are younger. Yeah. And they were what, 7 and 8 when it happened?
6 and 8.
6 and 8.
6 and 8. I'm sorry, she's 9, not 8. 9, 6 and 9, or 6 and 8.
6 and 9.
They grow up fast.
Really young.
Yeah, but I mean, they were good with it. My daughter was upset about her violin, which it was an argument to get her to practice. And my son was upset because it was him and my thing that we turned on the Christmas lights every night. I was like, all right, what about, whatever we just got you for Christmas? Oh, we can get that stuff back. So, I mean, they were very good about it, in the big picture.
It's odd what they miss, right? So it's always interesting.
Like, some of the stuff, we told them, hey, well, no, we don't use it. We don't want it. All right, fine. But yeah, no, they did well with the whole thing. I was surprised.
Yeah. Kids are resilient. They really are.
Yeah. Isn't that true? Because they have less thinking about it.
Yeah. They just go with it.
Think about it. Right? They don't have the history that we have that
so resilient. Yeah.
Has just given us so much stuff to think about. They have very little thinking, and they're just in the moment more.
Yeah.
Than most adults.
I mean, we got them that night. They were over friends' houses and stuff, my mom's house, this and that. The next day was just as normal. Let's go to school. The school I knew about it. Just keep them as normal as we can. Like I told you. The
next day they went to school. They didn't miss a day of school?
No, they wanted to go back, and just that was there. They could talk to their friends. They could just be with people and just, because this was just before COVID.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
so they wore the same clothing the next day at school. They didn't have any other clothing, right?
Oh no, my neighbor across the street, one of her whole garages was filled up with donations by that time.
That's another point.
That's beautiful. I had a house, we had an apartment fire, and I remember people giving me clothes, and it was so wonderful. It was so nice.
Yep. I mean, everybody, and I grew up in the town, so like I knew all the firemen there. I knew 3/4 of the town. I mean, I coached all their kids in either lacrosse or hockey or this and that. So, you know, it was just people were just coming out of the woodwork really to help us out that time.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Wow. You were involved in an apartment fire, Jen?
Yeah, but I was out at some sort of like skating event because I was in Manhattan at the time. And I can't even complain about it because I ended up living in this corporate apartment that was beautiful in the Upper East Side for a year after that. So I'm not even in the realm that you're in, believe me. It actually benefited me, if anything. But I just remember thinking, oh, I don't have that anymore. I don't have my mom's cookbooks. I don't have, you know, jewelry that I miss from my family members, things like that. Christmas ornaments, stuff like that, you know.
Wow. Yeah.
And I didn't have kids then, so that must have been really scary.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really something to see how, you know, it's ego attachment to things.
Material things. Yeah.
Material things. Thank you. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fascinating how that is. And there's this deeper spirit that we don't realize it, but we really rely upon that in these situations when you lose everything. What comes forward? Something's got to come forward, right?
Yeah.
There for us, aside from all the people who are giving us donations, there's something within us that keeps us moving forward. Like Brett said, well, okay, let's just go through the list here. What do we got to do to rebuild and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Just put one foot in front of the other.
It's cool that the kids know that. Like, kids seem to know that. They're just like, okay, this is what happened. It's scary. It's over. We're together. And that's what matters. They get that. You know?
Yeah. And we were all together that night. My mom lives 2 miles and change from me. And we crashed at her place. So, you know, we were all there. Everything, you know, worked out well, I guess you could say, you know, for the
as well as it could, right? Kind of huddled together.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. You know, that's the human spirit. Is just wow. We don't realize what we're made of, not from an egotistical standpoint, but from the standpoint of spirit. It has our back. Whatever it is, this invisible force. You know,
I was watching the there's this guy, I don't know if you've heard from Trevor Noah.
Oh yeah.
He was love him too. So they were asking him questions like, when is he gonna go back to the studio for his shows? And he was like, I cannot go back. I can only move forward. So I thought that was like very interesting for him to say that.
Trevor who?
Trevor Noah.
Oh, he's a political comedian?
Yeah.
He's like a talk show.
He was in a fire also?
No, I was just saying that they were asking him questions about when he's going to go back to the studio for his shows. And so he said, I cannot go back. I can only move forward. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they were filming at his home, like a lot of them were doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
In his basement or something like that. Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, interesting. I can't go back. I can only go forward. Yeah.
Yep.
So what other questions you have? I could also read something from the missing link. That's always a good way to stimulate some conversation. Should we do that? What are you intrigued with? Should I read about wisdom or consciousness or? Actually, the page I opened up to, the first word is wisdom. Wisdom is an innate intelligence everyone possesses deep within their souls before the contamination of the outer world of creation. Boy, doesn't that go with what we were just talking about? Isn't that funny? It was bookmarked, and I just opened it up, and there it is. Wisdom is an innate intelligence everyone possesses deep within their souls before the contamination of the outer world of creation. Find the spiritual wisdom that will guide you through life from within. This is where you will find the feelings of love, understanding, and contentment. Love, understanding, and contentment. Boy, oh boy. Like no matter what goes on out there, outside of us, inside here is still love, understanding, and contentment that is always available to us. That's pretty wild when you think about it, you know, that we are not attached to things that go on outside of us, even other people, because they're outside of us. Of course, we have attachments, of course, you know, people we're close with, but our well-being is not attached to them. That's an interesting thing to decipher between.
I wanted to say something about that.
Yes, do, please. Please do.
If I may.
Go, Jen.
So this kind of, I read this, whatever you're reading, I listened to him say something very similar to that in my car while I was driving. And what led me to think about that for like a day or two is that I'm a workaholic, right? And sometimes I define myself by my job. And when I peel away all the pieces of my job and my connections and my colleagues and just get back to who I was before I did this job, sometimes I have to really think about who am I when I'm not working, and who am I when I'm not mom, and who am I when I'm not a sister, you know what I mean? So that's kind of, I don't know, that kind of speaks to me, because part of that is ego, what your job is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I can agree with you too.
Yeah. That's what Liliana was saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's our society that so many, maybe most people identify with the work that they do. And that's why there's a lot of disappointment, anger, upset, because people are thinking, I'm not where I should be, or I've got to catch up, or I've got to keep up with the Joneses.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all thought, self-created. We create that with our ability to think. And then we suffer from it.
So
we create our own suffering.
So the contentment is kind of hard for me to get to, but I think I could get there, you know, without, if I separate the ego part, I think, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about contentment. That's a great thing you bring up. Sid said in different places that success is happiness and contentment.
Yeah.
That's real success. You know when this became, I'll tell you a little story because it reminds me way back. I mean, we're talking like before the 90s, probably in the 80s. I was on vacation with my then husband in Jamaica. And it was after, we got a real good bargain because it was after a hurricane hit. And so we go on this glass bottom boat excursion. Glass bottom boat.
Yeah.
We get in there and it's like this little tiny boat, only three of us, the guide my husband and I could fit in, and it was not a glass bottom. You couldn't even see through it. It was scratched and marred. It was plexiglass. We're looking at each other. The guide, like, what the heck is this? The guide was so amazing. Big, black guy with the whitest teeth and the biggest smile. Joe, 1980s, and I remember his name. He was so impressive. I'll never forget this. Big smile. I said, my God, Joe. I don't know. We got to finding out that he lived on, the whole trip was him. Never mind what was going on below. It was him above. And all we did was chat with him. He lived on a fishing village. What happened to the fishing village? Oh, it was wiped out, but we all survived. He was happy as could be. The whole fishing village wiped out, but we all survived. Isn't that something, huh?
Yeah.
So I know that's success. The guy, didn't have two pennies to rub together, whatever that saying is, but he was happy and content. And he knew that, things would regrow, evolve. That's what happens with life. That's built into life. Evolution.
I feel like sometimes we may not see it right in that moment, that everything happens for a reason. But
yes, that's so true. Thank you for saying that. Sometimes we don't see it in the moment.
Exactly.
I don't think Brett saw it in the moment he saw flames coming out of his house. Oh yeah, we'll rebuild. I don't think that was crushing your mind at that point in time.
No.
But at some point, when the dust settles, literally, you reflect and you realize, hey, we're alive. The whole family could have been asleep and trying to get everybody out so fast. You got both of your dogs out.
Mm-hmm.
That alone was amazing. We forget and we take for granted the things we do, the people that we have in our lives and the animals and the pets. We can take everything so for granted, those really important things in our life. People.
Yeah.
People, pets, live things. Yeah. Do any of you listeners sit before bedtime? Do you find that it puts you to bed? Do you have a good night's sleep? Some people have said that.
Yeah, he's to me, he's calming.
He's calming, yeah.
Yeah, and just
his voice.
Just kind of put you thinking, and then just kind of for me, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I generally listen while driving, actually. That's my time, is when I'm driving. Oh. Yeah.
You listen while you're driving, yeah. There's a man who sometimes comes on Monday night, or sometimes he comes on Wednesday. He lives in Oregon, so he's 3 hours earlier. And he met Sid in the 70s. And he still, when he drives around, he plays Sid Banks tapes, recordings. It's funny. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it really helps him. He's the man who wrote a book. Alan Flood is his name. You'll meet him sooner or later, I'm sure. I think I posted a recording he did. It's really excellent if you can give a listen. The recording is not very clear. The picture is not clear, but I could hear his words, and they're really quite good to listen to. And he wrote a book called Perfect Misfortune.
Oh.
Because he was diagnosed with MS fairly early in life. I think it was in his 40s, if I'm not mistaken. And he was an avid skier. he's not in a wheelchair. He still works. He's a grant writer. And he gets around, works in his garden. Yeah, but it changed his world. And in a perfect way, in retrospect, he said he was going way too fast. It's so weird that medical diagnosis would actually, he would say, worked in his favor because it slowed him down to see what was really valuable in life. It wasn't speeding through life. Yeah. What else you want to talk about? You know, and if you ever want to bring a passage of something that you read or hear, it's easier to bring a book because you could just read from it, but you know.
He's also different because I guess what makes him different to me than the other people or other people that I've heard of or, you know, listened to my family talk about is that he talks about how it's like you already know all these things on some level and it's already, you know, you understand. I feel like he's like, you know, you kind of have this skill already, you know, you just have to tap into it kind of, you know.
Right. We have innate health. It doesn't take skill. It's just we're innately healthy. Like you look at the kids or infants, like Liliana, you're in a perfect position to observe your daughter. She's how old?
About to be 10 months.
How many?
About to be 10 months.
Baby.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
She's 3 months?
No, she's 9 months now. Going
9 months. 9 months old. Yeah. Wow.
It's adorable.
So, you know, she doesn't have all this history. Sid calls it contamination of thought. She's just this pure being. She cries when she's got a wet diaper.
Sometimes I say I want to live in that world of just like, you know, happiness and just like everything is roses. Joy. And it's beautiful.
No worries, no responsibilities.
Yeah.
Like high school. You do your work, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we can live in that world a lot more than we realize. It's good that you're noticing that. And we have responsibilities. We've got to, you know, do banking stuff and all this other stuff. But there's, you know, I notice like when it comes time, you know, April 15, you got to get your tax return in, right? Yeah. And I notice that there are moments I actually have fun doing it. There's something about the organization of it and playing with numbers and, you know, putting the right number in the right space. There is something meditative about it. If I'm not angsting what those numbers mean, if I don't have any attachment to how much I made this year compared to last year or how much I want to make next year, I don't have that on my mind. Why? Why have that on my mind? You know, you just do your job. You find your enjoyment in your job, and it all works out. It works out somehow. I've never seen anybody, you know, have you ever heard anybody at their end of their life and they say, you know, it didn't work out. Whatever situation they're in, it worked out. You know, they're still alive to tell the story, which reminds me that Sid tells a really funny joke about that very thing, about getting to the end of your life. And I was trying to remember it to tell a friend on a walk today. And I just got reminded, I got to find it and send it to her. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, and then I got to memorize it. I was at a party Friday night and there was a friend of ours is a lawyer. He's really, really super smart. And he had these really lengthy jokes. I don't know how he remembers. How do you have a memory like that? He must have memorized it. You know, I can tell like a 3-line joke. Knock, knock, who's there? That's about what I remember. Oh. But Sid, you know, Sid had a really great sense of humor. Breaks it up a lot. And we gain insight even from the jokes, right? Because that particular joke, I'll have to post it on, are the 3 of you on the Facebook group? Our Mystery School Facebook group? No. You're not, Liliana?
No.
You're not on Facebook?
I don't have Facebook.
You don't do Facebook? I'll have to send it to you separate. I'm pretty sure it's in the Experience. No, it could be in Long Beach. I know who knows it because I asked him once before, where is this joke? Yeah. So I'll find it for you. It's fun. And it's about worry. So I got to send it to you. It's all about worry.
So hard not to worry. It really is. Because you just don't feel like you have control unless you're worrying. Or at least I don't feel like I have control over things unless I'm worrying.
Well, say that again, Jen. You don't feel like you have control unless you worry?
Yeah, I really feel like it's linked to it. If everything's done and I've accomplished whatever I can do, it's really hard for me to let go and just be like, okay, now I'm going to do something I like to do. Because I think, oh my God, I should be doing something that I'm supposed to be doing about this worry, you know?
Well, that's interesting. That sounds like an insight to me.
Is that crazy? Or I'm crazy.
Well, how many other people think that way? You know, they're attaching, like, you know what I call that? And so many things that our brain does is connecting dots that don't even exist. Right. Remember the old thing we played as kids, connect the dots, you draw a line between the dots and it would create a horse or something or a dog. Well, that's what we do in life. We're connecting up a bunch of dots. The dots don't even exist. What are we doing connecting them?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to see.
I think it's that ego working.
Ego, that's ego, having to be in control. And it's an illusion. Being in control is such an illusion. I mean, the pandemic taught us that. We didn't have any control over that happening. Life happens. So.
Yeah.
Brett didn't have a control over his fire.
Nope.
No. But there's something really kind of scary about letting go of that control to me.
What do you mean? Say more.
I think the illusion that I'm in control of things makes me feel more comfortable. Even though I know it's an illusion, it makes me feel comfortable to think, oh, I have control over this, you know? Even though I really don't. I know I don't on some level.
Yeah, you know what comes to mind? It's like the tighter we hold on to controlling something, if it proves that it's actually out of our control, that's just going to upset us. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And case in point is when you're raising children, they're totally different than what you think they're going to be in every single way possible. And they do things that you never think you could predict. And you could talk to them about the same thing every single day of your life. And they're going to be who they're going to be like 90% of who they are. Maybe you have 10% influence, maybe.
Jen's kids are college age, just so you know. That's what you got to look forward to, you two.
Yeah, and I just had this conversation with my youngest, who's going back to Manhattan, and I really want him in a dorm, but he wants to do an apartment share. And I think here's a situation again where I want to have control because I want him to be safe and make sure that everything is just perfect. But life is messy, so I have to just accept that, right?
Yeah, things happen in dorms too. I was in one.
Right, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, why am I trying to control this so much?
Yeah. Well, isn't it because you have your memories of being in a dorm versus being in an apartment, and
that's my
memories
world.
Are not our memories can't predict what will happen with somebody else.
Right. And
the best prediction is that you can trust the innate health of that child. You can trust that they have wisdom. Have you noticed that when you speak to somebody, I don't know if any of you, well, you, Jen, you deal with kids as a speech therapist, right? So when you talk to their wisdom, and I know you do this because I've had conversations with you where you do this more than other teachers, right? That you've observed in your school. So when you talk to anybody, talk to their wisdom, that's what you bring forth.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. Whether they're your biological children or the kids you work with, or the neighbor's kids, or your nieces or nephews.
Yeah. Yep. Because when I explain where I'm coming from and they kind of listen a little bit, I don't get so much pushback sometimes, or they'll be quiet so I know that something might be going in. I don't know. And then we have a conversation because they'll respond from their wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great to be able to really fully listen to kids. Boy, they really appreciate that.
Yeah, and they're very bright.
Yeah.
For the most part. They're pretty aware.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something, isn't it, to recognize that everybody actually has wisdom inside of them. Everybody does. And, doesn't mean that they make the best choices in life, because they're up against their thinking and their ego.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. So you feel like you're learning, like you're seeing new. You're all saying that, whatever degree that is true for you at this point.
Yeah.
And if you just keep listening, it's not a lot, right? 20 minutes, half an hour a day. It's not really a lot for 6 weeks. At the end of 6 weeks, you'll see a different post-test from the pre-test that you did. It'll look different. It's pretty interesting, isn't it? That you could, basically this is like I call it a book club on steroids. It's really, book club with, we're really looking into how life works, how the human experience evolves. So cool.
And it's just, I think it's crazy how something has to happen to you for you to stop and think and look around and see what really is important in life. I guess if nothing bad ever happens to you, I guess you won't realize like what's really important in life.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting? Do you know what I learned from somebody who's another 3 principles practitioner? She pointed out a saying, I think I got it from her Instagram post. It's a saying in Kabbalah, 2 different ways to pronounce it, Jewish mysticism that Madonna made famous. There's this saying, maybe there is no good and bad in the world. Maybe there is only good and concealed good. What you just said, Liliana, reminded me of that saying that, you know, seemingly bad things happen, a fire, you know, both Jen and Brett experienced that. And even Jen, you were grateful. Like I had a flood in my condo. I got a new kitchen because I had this horrible, awful flood.
And I felt badly because, you know, people were displaced, but they put me in a way better place than I was living.
Yeah.
Way better.
Wild?
Way better.
Brett, you were even saying that you then rebuilt all the things that you didn't have in the original house. You were able to have an addition and other things, right? I mean, not like we're going to go trying to put our house on fire or have a flood, but it is surprising, isn't it, that bad things, seemingly bad things, can work in our favor. Like, how do you wrap your mind around that stuff? It's weird, isn't it? It's just so weird. But I've seen it over and over again. There's 4 of us on this talk. All 4 of us have a story like that. My flood, your apartment fire, your house fire, and Liliana, your need to get back to work, which led you to mystery school. Right? You wouldn't have found mystery school if you didn't have this, I gotta get back to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Life is a trip. It's a mystery. Life is a mystery, that's for sure. Yeah. So it's time to go. And I'm so glad that you came, and come next Monday. If you have a free Wednesday afternoon, I do Wednesday at 2 for the people in Europe because they're 5 or 6 hours later than us. Okie dokie. And, you know, every week we'll do pretty much the same. I start out by asking people if you had any insights you want to share. And I've been on programs where nobody says anything. And believe me, I can fill the hour talking or reading from Sid. So you don't feel like you have to come with anything. Just a nice place to gather and share stories, because we learn from each other. It's like we piggyback off each other. Right? Have you noticed that you're listening to somebody's insight and that kind of sparks something for you? It's cool how that works. Yeah. All right. So I'll see you soon. See you next Monday anyways.
Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Have a good,
good
rest of the night.
I have
Not much left.
And I'll email you about a change in my schedule for Wednesday. Okay.
Okay. Should
I just email you? And because I can't do that time.
Let me stop the recording.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. Oh, you're really good. You could stop your recording. You're good.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't know why I don't have those buttons to stop the recording. Well, let's do email, because maybe I put in the wrong view to see it.
Okay.
Oh, there.